President Donald Trump entered office with bold talk of resetting the United States' relationship with China. His administration signaled a willingness to tackle the biggest challenges between the world's two leading powers, resolving long-standing trade imbalances, lowering tensions over Taiwan, curbing the flood of fentanyl, and perhaps even cooperating on emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. Some even hoped for long-term collaboration on nuclear arms control. But as his presidency progressed, that vision gave way to confrontation. Rather than diplomacy, Trump staked his legacy on an escalating trade war, imposing sweeping tariffs on Chinese goods in an effort to pressure Beijing into concessions. He claimed the tariffs were working, pushing investment back into the U.S. and punishing unfair Chinese practices. Yet behind the scenes, his administration was deeply divided. Officials clashed over strategy. Some saw the tariffs as a bargaining chip for a broader deal. Others embraced the idea of decoupling, a radical shift toward economic independence from China, regardless of the cost. Allies watched in confusion. Where once there had been talk of building a coalition with Europe, Japan, South Korea, India, and others to counterbalance China's economic influence, Trump's go-it-alone approach began to alienate America's traditional partners. According to insiders, there was no grand strategy, just a patchwork of conflicting tactics. And China? It responded with careful, measured escalation. For every American tariff, Beijing imposed its own. But it also sent a clear message. It was prepared to endure the pain. China suspended exports of critical minerals, materials essential for everything from semiconductors to military hardware. It reminded the U.S. that supply chains are still deeply intertwined, and that Beijing has its own economic levers to pull. Our Nicholas Burns, who recently stepped down as the U.S. ambassador to China, warned that relations are now at their most fragile, since full diplomatic ties were established in 1979. Still, he made clear, this is not just about American aggression. China has long exploited global trade rules for its own gain. Now, the risk isn't just economic, it's geopolitical. A prolonged standoff could deepen tensions around Taiwan, the South China Sea, and the broader Indo-Pacific. Meanwhile, high-level communication has stalled. President Trump boasts of his great relationship with President Xi, but no meaningful dialogue has taken place. Xi, for his part, has remained silent, avoiding any appearance of weakness. Even as Kui Chang-kai, China's former ambassador to the U.S., returned to Washington in quiet back-channel efforts, there's little sign that either side is ready to compromise. The backdrop to this crisis is years of mounting distrust. After Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in 2022, China launched aggressive military exercises across the Taiwan Strait, drills that continue to this day. The following year, a Chinese high-altitude balloon floated across American skies, prompting outrage and a dramatic U.S. response. Each incident left a scar, making future cooperation even harder to imagine. Yes, President Biden managed to re-establish limited talks after those crises. But even those discussions, on fentanyl and AI in nuclear systems, were modest and tentative. The stakes in the current trade war are much higher. They threaten both nations' economies and the balance of power across Asia and beyond. And now, inside Trump's own team, divisions are boiling over. Elon Musk, heavily reliant on China for his businesses, called top White House advisor Peter Navarro a moron. Navarro fired back, undeterred. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent defended the tariffs, calling them serious, but also admitted they might not be sustainable long-term. So where does that leave the U.S.? What is the endgame? Will Trump double down, risking recession and global instability? Or will he pursue a more measured path, one that rebuilds trust with allies, balances competition with cooperation, and avoids a full-scale rupture with China? Because in the end, Trump may be forced to choose between two unappealing futures: an unhappy, uneasy economic partnership or a messy, costly divorce.